Hey everybody, I'm Jalen.
And I'm Cacie.
And this is the summer of Jalen and Cacie, coming to the end of week 3 here.
Woo.
Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we want to start off by giving a special shout out to our newest channel member, Lindy Moyo. And I believe I'm saying that right. And as we get more channel members and we shout out your names, please correct us if we get it wrong. We want to make sure we get your names right. It's very important to us.
You are officially a vision bearer.
You are a vision bearer. So
Praise
thank you
God.
so much
Thank
for being
so much.
One of our vision bearers. So shout out to now our 2 vision bearers. We've got Jeremy Dixon and we've got Lindy Moyo. And the third one could be you. So hit that join button, look at the tiers to see if you want to support and do like they're doing, which is very much helping us and assisting us. Like, you don't understand, like seeing that name pop up today. It's like, oh, like wow, someone really believes in us and believes in what we're doing and helping people.
Well, I think also they believe in others too. They want people to receive what we're ministering because it's helpful to them, but you are really going to be taking a part in helping people be free in their relationships, free in their lives, and just free all across the board. And we just cannot say thank you enough for helping us taking this gospel all across the world.
So thank you, and thank you. All right, let's get into today's topic, which I think everyone's excited about. Should you kiss before marriage? And even a broader way of looking at it, how far is too far? So the root of this is basically the idea of you're a Christian couple, you want to be pure, you want to do things right, and even take a step back further than that. If you've grown up in a church environment, you've been taught what to do and what not to do. So you've kept yourself, you're doing all the right things, you keep the right platonic relationships with the opposite sex, but now you begin a relationship and you're doing it right. And now it's like you've got all these feelings, all these emotions toward this person. And all those emotions want to be expressed through physical interaction.
And that's natural.
Touch. It's very natural.
And I think if you are a Christian and you have moral standards about yourself, I think you already know the answer to this question, but we're looking for permission. We're looking for validation because we don't want to be the odd man out. And because I know I did, I want to make sure that I wasn't, in the wrong, stuff like that. So I know a lot of you are watching this video like, please tell me I'm right. Please tell me I'm right. Because I'm telling you, those emotions get very hot and heavy, and it is very, very hard to keep your hands off of each other. Yeah,
and and I really want to dig into this because a lot of times we have rules and regulations and doctrines that we invent, and we don't know why. Yeah. We don't know what is the reason. Like, why am I not having sex before marriage? And that's a different discussion. We're not actually going to discuss that one today, but that'll be another good one maybe before this summer of Jalen and Cacie is out. But it's like, well, why should or shouldn't I kiss? Like, is it okay? Is it a big deal? But does the Bible even say anything about it? And what happens is, if you can't find a scripture necessarily to back it up or to say yes or no, then you just feel bound for no reason, and you got to have a reason, And yes, God saying thou shalt not should be a good enough reason, but there is a reason for every commandment God gives, and there is a benefit to following it. But if you can't find a scripture that says no, you shouldn't kiss before marriage, then it's like, well, why not? And are we just making up rules to try to control people, or we're trying to make sure nobody gets pregnant, or we don't trust each other, that kind of thing. So for me, it's very important to dig into the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I living the way I'm living? What is the benefit? What am I getting out of it? Or maybe is this just a false doctrine that I don't need to be following?
Yeah, because
you want to know the truth.
I know, because we see it a lot. There's a lot of kissing Christians, and no judgment on anybody, okay? I want to say that first. We're not here to judge you or to condemn you at all. That is not our job. But we're just here to bring a perspective that I think a lot of times we don't think about when we enter into relationships. I'm just going to share that growing up in my home, my parents were very strict and they were very conservative about a lot of things. And as a teenager and as a young adult, I didn't always understand it. I didn't get it, and I didn't always agree with it. But as I've become older, more mature, and now that I am a marriage minister and we coach marriages, I see the importance of why my parents were so strict about a lot of things. Because here's the thing about fire. It burns. I don't care how little the flame, it's going to burn. And it's like, why take the risk and the chance of getting burned just because it's a little fire? It's just a little matchstick. Like, why? Everybody's doing it. And for me, growing up, it was about anything I wanted to do that was kind of outside of the norm for me. I don't know, my parents always made me research and question my desires of why you really have to do something. What's the benefit of this thing? And even when it came to our relationship, once we got married, I'm a fourth. I know I was a grown adult, okay? But we want to oversight and we want to do everything right to the best of our ability. And it was like, well, why you want to do this? What's the benefit of doing these things? And we'll share that a little bit later in the story. Yeah. But that's the reason why we're bringing this up. It's not to condemn you. It's not to judge you. But it's to bring a perspective that you may not have thought of, and because we want you to get the best out of your relationship.
Exactly, and the best out of your life as an individual.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fire, and that's a good scripture, and probably people would use this when trying to contend with this discussion. Apostle Paul brought it up, saying, y'all should just get married lest you burn. Yeah. You know, with sexual desire, it's better to just go ahead and be married than trying to withhold yourself, you know, long term. Like, just get married, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But it even goes deeper than that. And it has to do with your objectivity when you're evaluating who your spouse should be. But we're going to get into that. But first, I decided to go on the research side because there were some things that I knew that happened just from physical touch that I wanted to see if it was verified by science. And turned out it was. So I'm going to read you an article. I don't know anything about this website. So if someone knows something about this website, to the positive or negative, I don't know. I'm not endorsing this website. They just happen to have an article that had research that they're quoting in the article that, you know, that's relevant to what we're talking about today. So the website is bustle.com. I don't know what that's about, but they're talking about first kisses. So this is specifically talking about your first kiss with someone and what it does to your body. And it's just very interesting. So I'm quoting a lot of doctors, PhDs, people who've done research, and I'm not going to take time to list every name, but the quotes I'm quoting are from people who've done this research. Okay. One thing that kissing will do will let you know if you like a person. You know, it kind of like is a validation of whether or not you like them. But it really has to, they say deals with your sympathetic nervous system. That's what's being aroused. Yeah. So it's not just a physical thing like, you know, like what you see, but your nervous system is actually being affected with this. It gets very interesting. Okay. It seems, based on this research, that kissing has a lot to do with mating or sex. Yeah. So, you know.
I can see that.
Yeah, basically. So, now, because I really wanted, I said, is kissing separate from sex? Like, kissing itself isn't sex. You're not having sex, you're kissing. But is it completely separated? Can they just be two different things? But everything that I read in the research shows me that kissing is just a precursor to sex. It's everything it's doing in your body is getting you ready and primed for sex. So you cannot remove the two.
So basically, you open the door to sex. So now you have to decide whether or not you're going to cross that or not. So now you have to trust yourself to not go inside that door to sexual relation. And it's like you have a door open now for temptation, a door open now for a lot of things that most of us don't have the strength to resist.
Yeah. And it's when people was like, well, all we do is kiss and we never had sex and things like that. Great. I'm glad you're one of those people.
You one of the 0.5%.
But I just want you to, like we talked about going into this, what is the purpose of a thing? It's like, so what does kissing do? Why do we kiss? And it's to help you assess a potential mate. It releases pheromones. It's almost like a biological thing that it's doing when you're kissing that has to do with the leading up to sex. It releases a burst of adrenaline. The heart rate goes up, muscle tension increases, your breathing rate speeds up, and blood flows to your internal organs. That's why they say you might feel weak in the knees because the blood is leaving that part of the body and going to your organs. Let's see what the next one is. But basically it leads to you wanting to do more kisses. Like you kiss once and then you chase that feeling and go for more. All your brain's happy chemicals are released. And this was the most important part for me, and I'm going to explain why. But it says that your body is flooded with the feel-good chemical oxytocin. A lot of us have heard of that. But there's also other things, serotonin, endorphins,
that relaxes
things that things that elevate your mood. It boosts the dopamine that regulates your sexual desire. The dopamine is interesting because I did a lot of research on dopamine dealing with when people who are addicted to pornography and the way your brain gets flooded with it. And that's really with a lot of different drugs. So dopamine is something that gets boosted while kissing. So you almost get like addicted to it. You chase the feeling of kissing.
Which is supposed to be that way because if this is your lifelong mate, your husband, your wife, it brings that connection and makes you want to be more connected with them.
And that's literally what it says. It often leads to the desire to be more intimate.
Yeah.
So again, it's designed to lead to sex, which is when you think about what God invented it, it's like, okay, kissing was supposed to get you there. One thing that we talk about to married couples when you're trying to rectify like a low amount of sex in the marriage and things like that. What we call foreplay is important and things like that, but it being intentional. And one of the things that's always recommended is take some time to just sit down and kiss. Don't even think about, all right, we got to have sex because we need to. It's like, no, just sit down and kiss. And what happens is a good makeout session. Yeah. What that does is it relaxes you and it gets you in the mood. And then suddenly, if you weren't in the mood before to have sex, it gets you in that mood. So something that's a very valuable tool in marriage. So I see God inventing this, like, for those days when y'all are tired, for those days when y'all just ain't feeling it, but y'all should be having sex because it is a thing that binds the two of you together in intimacy. Kissing will get you there.
That it talks about how it relaxes you, or serotonin is released as well. But just imagine if you are in a very relaxed mood, that also means you're in a vulnerable mood as well. You ever seen somebody that drinks and when they get drunk, they're very chill, very relaxed. So that means that their guard is down. They're not as coherent, and they don't have the ability to make wise judgments on things. And they typically wake up from a long night of drinking and like, what did I just do? Or why am I here? I didn't say that, whatever, because they're so succumb to that feeling, that relaxation, that it caused them to make poor decisions. So the same thing, if you're doing this kissing and foreplaying, it gets you relaxed and you find yourself, you can have this conversation. No, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. But your body's like, girl, no, boy, no. Like, we want more.
Because it's a drug, basically.
It's a drug and you want more. Like, I remember the first time we held hands. We weren't even kissing. But we held hands for the first time, and it was like electricity. I can just remember, like, it literally just shot through my whole body, and it was just like, oh my God. It was like, for real. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. But if you can go back in time and remember the first person that you really had a crush on, that you really, really liked, and y'all was a thing, and you held hands for the first time, or you were just even close in their proximity, I mean, you can remember that, just that, it's like, that's how it feels. And it's just like, oh, I want to do this all the time. So, kissing the whole other level from that.
It gives you this warm and fuzzy feeling, and it's the sense of falling in love. And so what it does is you feel instantly close and connected because it's doing something in your bloodstream with oxytocin, and they call it the love hormone. Okay, so it's interesting that it can make you feel in love with somebody that you're not necessarily in love with. And that's important. Let me get back to that. Your pupils dilate, you get those butterflies, your nerve endings become more sensitive. So you become more sensitive to physical touch as you weren't before. So now every touch is heightened.
Tingly.
It's heightened. So again, all this stuff is all precursors to sex. So that's what kissing is. That is its purpose. We could try to say it's not or whatever like that, but that is its purpose. And that's just a first kiss, okay? But all in all, kissing in general gives you all those happy hormones that we just talked about. Helps you bond with another person, which is also, incidentally, what sex does, okay? So there's a lot of different things: relieve stress, reduce anxiety, all these great stuff. But it is a part of marriage because it's a precursor to sex, and we know that sex is a part of marriage. We'll have to do a separate video on sex. But we hit the reasons of why it could be a bad idea, because it makes you vulnerable to crossing lines that you weren't intending on crossing. It's one thing when you're in your right mind making a decision and saying, I'm only going to do these things and never going to cross these boundaries. But if you do something like you said, like being under the influence of something, then suddenly you'll make decisions that you wouldn't have made when you weren't under the influence. Under the influence of oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, you'll make different decisions than you made when you were. And that's why people suddenly, like, I didn't mean to. We weren't planning on having sex today. We were planning on whatever. And it just feels like, and that's where the guilt comes in afterward. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to. I wasn't planning on this. I don't know how this happened. Well, because it was supposed to happen. See, you're trying to fight the nature of the physical body that God made for a reason. Kissing is supposed to lead to the next step. So you're actually trying to fight nature, okay? That's why some people just live their lives and just do whatever because they don't try to fight their nature. But you're trying to fight nature. You're trying to fight fire while blowing more oxygen on it, you know? So it's like
while putting gasoline on it, like,
doing the opposite.
But I'm gonna spray gasoline on it.
It really doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
You're kissing and then trying not to have sex when kissing is designed to lead you to having sex. It's supposed to relax you to do it. So you're trying to figure out why it's so hard to resist.
And most of us are not, unless you're just weird. Most of us are not kissing in front of our parents. We're not kissing in front of a bunch of people. You know, you usually do that in a quiet, private place. You know, an intimate place. So it's not like you have oversight watching you kiss. Yeah. So, because if that was the case, most of us wouldn't be doing it anyway. So again, you're setting yourself up for a failure. Honestly, you really are. And again, I know some people may watch this and say, "Well, that's old-fashioned. You know, we're new age now. We don't do that stuff. That's old school. We can kiss, still be Christians, love God. Da 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 da." Listen. I ain't got a heaven or hell to put you in. That's not the point of this message. The point is, we know from working with other people how crossing this line can affect your psyche going forward in your marriage, in your relationship. Because I promise you, I guarantee, even if no one ever admits it or ever talks about it, people have overstepped boundaries a lot in this area, and they feel guilty about it. And it can be devastating to them.
And I'll say this, you know, this is why if you watch us for any length of time, you know that we always say, when you know that you want to marry this person, get married fast.
Get married fast.
Because you're torturing yourself. Because I know someone's like, it's just so hard to resist. We get it.
Yeah.
Again, the moment you look at a person, the moment the feelings come in, everything starts moving in that direction because it's designed to. There's nothing wrong with that. Let us make it very clear. There is no shame in the feelings. When you see someone and it's just like, I love you and I want to get in the bed with you right now, that is natural. That is okay. It is supernatural because God created it for that purpose. That's why we recommend. Once you've got the green light and once you notice the person, get married as fast as you can, because otherwise you're trying to fight nature.
You would turn to ashes.
You almost create like this taboo about sex and sexual intimacy that by the time you get there, you almost don't know how to turn it back on because you've looked at it such a shameful thing. And we want you to be free in your sexual intimacy with your spouse. That's what we recommend. Just go ahead and get married. You know, y'all can have a wedding later if you need to. Go to Justice of Peace, get married, so y'all can just be free and let it all out because it's natural and it's good. Trust me, it is good. If you're unmarried and you wonder if it's good, it is good. I promise you it is. And it's worth it. So that's one thing. But I want to talk about the other side. Now we talked about, hey, you make yourself vulnerable to having sex before marriage and things like that. But there be some people who's like, well, I don't even care about having sex before marriage. I'll do that too. Well, let me tell you what kissing, sex for marriage, and all this stuff jeopardizes when you're trying to select the right person to spend the rest of your life with, knowing if they are the one for you. It completely jeopardizes your objectivity. And we just proved it by all the stuff that it does in your brain. It jeopardizes your objectivity. We talk to people all the time who are looking to get married, and it's like, and everyone seems to realize it as they get closer to their wedding day. You realize that the train has run away from you, and you're starting to think, and it could just be the natural jitters of, you know, you're about to spend the rest of your life with this person, but you start having doubts and wonderments, and you start noticing flaws in a person, but you feel like, I can't stop the train now. We've spent the money on the wedding, and this is where the jeopardizing comes in. You know, you've given your body to this person now. They're in your soul. It's like y'all so locked in, and now the red flags. You've gone colorblind almost to this now. But as you get closer, you start to realize, wait a minute, I'm noticing things that if I wasn't so close to the finish line now, maybe I would have held up and said, let's talk about this. Let's check this out. Let's make sure. But now you're so far removed and you're so close to that marriage day that now it's like, it's too late. Okay. And we don't want that to happen to you. Go ahead. You don't want that to happen to you because that's very dangerous. And what it does is it jeopardizes you because you can no longer be objective. And so that's what we always recommend having, or not recommend, but say that this is necessary to have premarital counseling, premarital guidance. And if you go back in this playlist, we actually did a whole video on it, because you need someone who can be objective, a neutral party who doesn't have the endorphins and the dopamine and the oxytocin running like you do. Someone who could look at this relationship and say, okay, this person has some problems you may want to wait on before you tie your life to them completely. You may want to work on this first, or you know what, this ain't even going to work out. But if you've jumped the fence so fast with all this physical touch and physical intimacy, what's happened is, even if someone is telling you that, and you can hear that it's wisdom, you're so attached or you're so blinded now by all these natural drugs in your system that it's hard for you to back up, become objective, and say, you know what, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I need to take a step back. You never want to lose that objectivity when you're going into a relationship. Because remember, this is someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And you're not married until you're married. Until you say I do, you always have the right and the ability to back out. Now, I'm not talking about people being, wishy-washy and leading people on, but I'm serious. Until the day that you say I do, you can always step back and say, no, this isn't right. And that's why it's good at premarital guidance and counseling to help you so that if they catch something that you didn't see, you can take that step. But 9 times out of 10, I'll say 10 times out of 10, when you've crossed those physical boundaries, it is extremely difficult for you to back out and say, wait a minute, something isn't right here. I see a red flag. You'll begin to make excuses, Before you got involved with this particular person, maybe you had a standard that, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I marry someone that is a church-going person, or I'm going to marry someone who believes in tithing and giving like me, or I'm going to marry someone who respects their parents. But let's say you get involved with this person, and before y'all have all these conversations, the kissing starts happening and the physical touch starts happening. And then somewhere a few weeks or months down the road, you discover that, wait a minute, they actually don't believe in going to church consistently. And you didn't find that out until later. And then suddenly, this used to be one of your hard, fast rules and standards. But now that you're compromised, now that you get all these drugs in your system running, these natural drugs, now you say, well, maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe it's not so bad. And then you find yourself talking to the people in your life, whether they're mentors or your friends, making excuses for this person. I've seen it happen. I've known people who are friends of mine. We grew up the same way, believing the same things, but they got involved with someone and that person didn't share their same belief system about certain things that they used to hold very valuable. But they got so far involved, so deep into a relationship with this person before they got oversight that later on they come back and now they're making excuses and their standard has dropped and they're like, well, maybe that's not such a big deal. Maybe I was too hardcore about that. Maybe that this little compromise is okay. That's what happens when you cross these lines. So it's not just about, well, all right, if you start kissing, you're definitely going to have sex. You're definitely going to cross that line. So don't start kissing for that reason. That's a part of it, but it's deeper than that. It's about never losing that objectivity because you become compromised when you get so deeply involved in someone. And I'll be honest with you, it's not just kissing. We titled this video, Should We Kiss for Marriage? But it's all physical touching. Like we shared before about the moment you hold hands. Anytime even when you look at the person, there's a certain objectivity you just lose immediately. And the more lines you cross, it just gets worse and worse. That's why you always got to have mentorship involved early on, because once those drugs start running your system, it's hard. It's hard to turn it off, and it's hard to say no. So you got to have somebody that, and look, it's true, because for everybody that's had multiple relationships, or you ever had a crush on someone when you were younger, and then you go back in your yearbook and see a picture of them, you're like, oh, like, they don't even look attractive to me now. Like, what was I thinking? What? I needed some glasses or something. Like, what did I see back then? That ever happened to you where you go back and look at someone you were interested in and now their personality or the way they look just looks way off to you? You're wondering, what did you ever see in them? Well, what you saw in them, you were looking through the veil of dopamine and oxytocin and all that stuff. So we know that it happens. We all do.
You got to start over.
Right.
Because I'm back now.
Oh, okay. Oh, everything I just said?
Yeah. You got to start over.
But no, the part I went into was about the research of, not the research, I'm sorry, going into the part about you losing objectivity and having, and I say, we've known people who, were very strong, had very strong standards about something, and then they got involved with someone, and then they come around, do a 180, and now their standards are lower, and they compromise on certain key issues, like marrying someone who's a churchgoer, marrying someone who believes in tithing, marrying someone who has respect for their parents. But then you find out down the road they don't believe the same way, but you're already compromised.
Yeah.
And so now you make excuses and say, well, maybe it's not a big deal.
Well, and I think that's where I find a lot of spouses fall into this depressed state in their lives and never can seem to find satisfaction because they know that they settled.
Yep.
Because they opened themselves up, and it was like, how did I get trapped?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you probably already said this when I was gone,
no
but you know, like, I'm trapped, and I don't know how to get out of this, and I would have never made this decision if I was sober.
Yeah, basically.
You know, and we've all found ourselves just in that scenario, maybe not in marriage, but we've done something where we're like, man, if I was thinking a little bit clearer, I would have not have made this choice. Yeah. And the one thing you don't want to be unsober about, and that's your spouse, your potential spouse. So give yourself the greatest chance possible by preserving that intimacy for marriage. And again, this is not a judgment zone. I know you got example on top of example, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that you know that may have kissed and stuff like that prior to marriage and doing okay. But I can almost guarantee you there's something that they've had to work through and work out because of that. They may not know, or they may not ever share it with you, but they have those things because it's impossible. Okay? It's impossible because no matter how strong of a Christian you are, no matter how God-fearing you are, your emotions, when they are released, they are released. And they have the right to overtake you because in the confines of an intimate relationship, that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. They're supposed to be able to run wild and free and do whatever. That's why you ought to be married, okay? And if you know you're a person who just don't have a lot of control in these areas, you need to be that person that have a lot of accountability. Don't be alone with people. These are some few tips. Don't be alone with this person. I don't care if you're 55 years old. If your desire is to honor God with your body, to honor God in this relationship, do not be alone with this person for extended periods of time without oversight, without somebody calling and checking in like, are you still upright? Literally. Okay? Because I'm telling you, it's going to haunt you and you're going to feel bad. And don't do this. Don't say, well, we already engaged. We already plan on marrying each other. So I don't see why we can't have sex before marriage. And I don't see why we want to save ourselves for kissing or making out. I don't know why, because we already said I do.
Now, you haven't.
But you haven't said I do yet. Like, that's the thing. You haven't. There is a difference. I tell it all the time. It's like, as dating or you engage, whatever, it's just so different. Once you say, I do, I am married, and that next morning, when you wake up as a wife or a husband, officially, it's a whole different air.
I wanna share a story, and it's a unique story that only someone like us could have who did save themselves from marriage, things like that. And to let you know the benefit, the difference of what happens when you do it this way, okay? We had just gotten married. We were like, literally, it's the wedding day. I'm serious. Like, it was the wedding day, and we were pulling stuff into the room, the honeymoon suite. And it was a split second where we had to change our clothes, separate rooms, things like that. But we were now in this honeymoon suite, and it was the first moment on our wedding day that we were just alone, officially alone.
I know, right? Like, nobody there.
And we were just in our regular street clothes at this point, but we had just gotten married like an hour before, and we were in this room alone. And you were facing the door because we were about to go back out and do something else first with the family before, everyone left and we just stayed in that room. But you were facing the door. And so I was like sitting on the couch away from you. I was just looking at you in the middle of the floor. And I got up, came behind you. You didn't know I was there. And I got on my knees right behind you. And I just lifted ever so slightly the bottom of your shirt. And I kissed you on the small of your back. And you kind of jumped like you didn't know that I was doing it and everything. And you giggled and everything. But it was just this moment of pure
Y'all know
freedom.
All our business.
I'm serious, like, no, but it was just, it was a sweet moment of freedom because in that moment, there were no boundaries. There were no rules withholding us. And it was just a feeling of, this is okay, this is legal, this is right, this is pleasing before God, and you are mine, and we are free. And the reason I share that sweet moment, that special moment that just can't be replicated, is that you don't know what you could be robbing yourself of.
Yeah.
To have pleasure now, there's some things that you're robbing yourself of later. And I mean, we hear it in life all throughout different things. You tell your kids, don't spoil your dinner by eating this lollipop now, things like that. It's a similar principle.
It's the same thing.
It's like, it's something that can't be explained. You can only experience it. And the safety of having sex for the first time, for having intimate moments for the first time within the walls, the boundary of marriage as God created it. It's something special.
Yeah.
And so if you are unmarried and you haven't crossed that line yet, and you maybe in any relationship with somebody, you're wondering, is it worth it? You're hearing from other people in your age group that you're lame for waiting, you're wasting your time, and it's not worth it. That's the thing that you're thinking. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's no big deal. Maybe there'd be no difference if I did this. There's other people who've crossed these lines, gotten married, and seem happy, and that's fine. And maybe they are happy. I don't know. I don't know their lives.
Or maybe their standards are so low that's
their
version of happy.
One thing I will say about this is everyone shows you what they want you to see. I mean, and that's true. The celebrities we thought were very happy, and then they broke up, and then you finally had all these problems going on. Everyone shows you what they want you to see. So don't assume anyone's happiness, and don't assume anyone's unhappiness either. But don't try to gauge whether something is right or wrong based on what everyone else is doing and try and figure out the results they get. Judge it against the word. Okay? And so what we're telling you is, as people who've done it this way, that it's worth it. It is literally, to use a term, worth the wait. Because it's not, it was never, because once that moment happens, once you're together and you're free, you realize the value of how important this is, and you're glad you're only sharing it with this person. You're glad this is the only human being who's seen this part of you, who's known you intimately in this way. You ever had a best friend you shared secrets with, but then you finally shared it with somebody else, and you lose something in that friendship now. It's just never the same. But if you can keep that joint thing, that thing between the two of you, it's like having that inside joke, but it's that inside intimacy. It's something special. I just want to encourage you that as someone who has that, it's great. It's great knowing that I'm the only one who's known my wife on this level, and no one else on this planet can say they have. And same vice versa for her to me. And it's a beautiful thing that it's worth it. It is genuinely worth it.
Yeah, because I see it as you get to build your own special way.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of lies out there that tell you, girl, you need to practice. How do you know you're going to like it if you don't, try it out first? I mean, I've heard that. Excuse me. I've heard that from Christian people. It's like, you got to try it. How do you know? You need practice, blah, 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 blah. I saw a documentary on a woman who had a son who had a girlfriend. And he was like, Mom, this is the one I want to marry. And this is the only first girlfriend. And she was like, are you sure? You sure you don't want to go out there and try a few other women? And this the mom. And she was trying to pressure her son to go and try out other women to make sure. Because it was like, you need to sow your wild oats, you need to, figure it out, learn how to ride a horse until you get good. And then take that skill training and bring it to you. That's not how this works.
It's not
how to, for one, you're not an animal, okay? You're not an animal. I don't want to be tried 1,000 times until I get it right or he gets it right or whatever, and then he move on or I move on to somebody else. That is usury. You will have nothing left. You are a used car. Like, even cars have a limit of how long an engine will run well after so many miles. Don't put miles on yourself, ladies. Don't put miles on yourself, men, with that lie, thinking you have to go out and practice. No, you don't. Because in the confines of a marriage, a good marriage, you learn what you like. You can build from scratch what you want. You don't have to come in with this pre-imposed idea, well, Johnny liked it this way, Tim liked it that way, Mark liked it this way, and I'm going to try to blend this together. Because your husband ain't Mark, Tim, John. You know what I'm saying? So you come in with all these ideas of how things ought to be done, and you will never truly find out the way he or she likes it done. I know that's kind of like y'all fill in the blank I'm talking about. But
and that's why pornography is so damaging. But that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, but between my husband and I, we know how to turn each other on. We know what the other likes. We figured out our way. We have our own special sauce just for us. And that's what makes our relationship so tight. And that's what makes you even tighter. It brings that bond even tighter and sweeter. And because even when you don't always feel like it, we have a way. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not holding him, I'm not judging him against any other man. Because I ain't been with nobody else. So you have to worry about that. Do you understand the insecurity a lot of men and women walk in relationships because they know their partners have had hundreds of other men or women before them, and they try to figure out, well, who are they comparing me to? Mm-hmm. Am I as good as this person? Am I as pretty as this person? I know of a couple right now where, you know, the husband was previously married, stuff like that, and she was a certain type, and she had a nice body, and she was a dancer, blah, blah, whatever. The new wife, she was feeling insecure because she was like, well, are you comparing with, you know, this is a whole lot of stuff. Now, a little bit different scenario, but the point is, the more partners you have prior to your actual marriage, that can bring a layer of insecurity into your relationship that sometimes you're not aware of. Mm. And I don't care how you want to try to bag it, we're not that sophisticated where we can just forget about it. No, you're going to remember it, okay? And a lot of times it's a negative if you remember it, because when something ain't going right, you were like, well, Johnny wouldn't done me that way. That, even if you want to say it out loud, that's going to pop up in your mind. And that's going to be a weapon that you can use against your relationship. So don't do that. Don't rob yourself of that. You can learn what you learn with each other. And the discovery is the best part of it all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those aha moments,
yeah.
for lack of a better term,
yeah.
in your relationship. I can't tell you how many times we've been married going on 6 years now, and we are still discovering new stuff. And when you hit one that's a 10, you write it down. You don't forget that one. You're like, okay, put that in the books. We're going to come back to that one again. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much fun when you can do it that way.
Exactly. And I have a lot to add to that, but I'm not going to say anything because that needs to be a separate video. It really does. It's a whole discussion. So I'm not going to say anything more, but just stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to have another video, maybe next week, I don't know, about why you shouldn't have sex before marriage and the benefits of waiting, because there are a lot. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I haven't gonna say anything else. There's so much I want to say, but it's good discussion. So, but I think that covers it pretty much. Yeah. How far is too far? How far? Look, here's the reality of it. The moment you zero in on a person, a process has begun. Mm-hmm. Something started. As soon as y'all start talking, as soon as a finger brushes the skin, lightning bolts go off, and you set something in motion. So be intentional before you ever involve yourself with someone. Be intentional about what you want, what you're looking for. Have standards set aside. Have spiritual oversight that's over your life before. Yeah. And then as soon as you feel like, okay, this thing has started, I'm starting to lose my objectivity, the endorphins are running, the dopamine's flooding, get someone else involved, that spiritual oversight, who can tell you yay or nay. Someone who has that objectivity, look back at the yearbook and say,
you can't pray in the Holy Spirit enough
to override that.
To override it. Like,
I'm sorry.
You cannot.
God didn't design it that way.
Because, well, it's deep.
Yeah.
And I want to say it. Because the act of intimacy, physically, is technically the act of marriage.
It is.
So, and God blesses marriage. Mm-hmm. God ain't going to stop marriage.
Ooh,
all right?
We're about to hit something real deep. Ooh, boy.
Okay. So, if you're acting out marriage before you do the nuptials and things like that, you can't pray that away. Because that's a natural order. It's like when you put a seed in the ground, it's going to automatically grow. It's going to germinate, because that's a law that God put in place that is even on autopilot. Like it knows what to do immediately when it's activated.
Even if you plant that thing in an unsafe place.
Yep.
Even if you plant it in the wrong garden. You plant a tree on the side of a cliff, it's going to try to find a way to grow. Yep. It's not the best place for it. It's not the safest place for it, but it's going to grow. And when you start doing marriage stuff, marriage things start happening. Yep. Marriage warfare starts happening. Yep. Marriage soul ties start happening. And you set something in motion, and you cannot stop it. You cannot stop it.
Can't.
The only thing you do is guide it. So again, how far is too far? The first step is it's in motion. And so we're not going to lay out, some people want to answer of an essay. Like, all right, we're going to make 2 columns, okay and not okay. And we're going to put the different things. I'm not going to do that for you. Use the Holy Ghost and listen to what we're saying of what happens in your body from a biological standpoint. And that is something supernatural that God created, and it's meant to be that way. So just be smart. And if this is the person, go and get married. Yeah. So y'all can be free. You can rip up that okay and not okay list and just go for it.
Everything goes, yeah.
Because here's the truth of the matter, and I'll end with this statement. How far is too far? What's okay? What's not okay? Here's the truth. All of it is okay. It's just, where are you doing it? Within what boundaries are you doing it? Okay? It's okay. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just, where did you put it?
Yeah.
Because if you try it, because God invented it for marriage. Marriage is a responsibility. and all the physical intimacy is kind of, it's more than this, but I'll say it's kind of like a reward. So what we try to do is strip away the reward without taking on the responsibility.
Yeah.
And when you violate that law, terrible things start happening to you. It was meant to be the reward with the responsibility. Don't try to separate one from the other.
Yeah, because sugar-free candy's nasty. Give me all the sugar, please.
Oh, goodness. Okay, anyway, that's that. That's our take on it. You know, take it or leave it, but you know what we're talking about. So we love you guys. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm going to run the channel memberships thing for anybody that doesn't know what those are here at the end before we close out. But that'll be the last thing you see, and then it'll go to the little outro clip. So tune in tomorrow, and because we'll be back with more Summer Jalen and Cacie with another exciting topic that I hope you all love. So watch this little clip, see if you want to be involved with channel memberships. Take or leave it, but subscribe, please, so you can come back tomorrow and see more videos just like this. The Summer of Jalen and Cacie continues. Hi, family friends. I'm Jalen.
And I'm Cacie.
And we're excited to introduce to you
channel memberships. So, Jalen, what are channel memberships?
I'm glad you asked, Cacie. Channel memberships are something that YouTube designed for creators like us to give our fans an opportunity to support us financially so we can keep creating great content that you love. For us, though, it goes a little bit deeper than that. See, for us, you're not just our fans, you're our family friends. And for those of you who actually sign up to be channel members, we're gonna call you vision bearers. As you know, we have a very strong passion for what we teach here about marriage, relationships, and the blessing of God on your life, whether you're single, married, divorced, indifferent. And we have a vision of taking this all across the world to as many people as possible. And some of you have helped us do it with all of your shares, likes, comments, and everything else. But now there's a new level that's available to us, and we want to share that opportunity with you. We've created 3 tiers of monthly contributions so that it's accessible to everyone. You get perks for doing this. That's a way of us saying thank you for supporting us in this way. You're going to get access to a special badge so that when you leave comments on our channel, people know that, hey, you're one of those vision bearers. You get access to special custom emojis of our faces that you can leave as reactions to your favorite videos. There's going to be a special members only tab